dancing on down the street. She said, oh, whamma, lamma, bamma, lamma, rock and roll is king.
Well, howdy there, Bronco fans, and we have got great news in the Mile High City. Can you believe it, folks? One game out of first place, our own Denver Broncos. Chris, can you believe what's happening right before our eyes?
Well, I just obviously after last week when we had pronounced this team dead, I just want to get it out there that I'm very comfortable with the fact that I obviously know nothing about football. I just want to make that clear. It's the conversation we had 2 weeks ago where you and I have looked at all these stats and we all watched the game. The one thing that matters is what happens on the far right next to where it says Denver, and that's a win in Oakland today.
Yeah, big win, 38-24. And I got to tell you, the first half, I was beside myself. I thought, here we go again. I thought, McCoy's play calling. Here we go again. MaGahee up the middle. You're putting Tebow on long. Third and long situation is a nightmare every time that happens. And lo and behold, I don't know what happened at halftime, but finally some adjustments made. We see passes to Decker on first down. You see Tebow running on first down. Dante Rosario with the catch, and then finally Eddie Royal. Welcome back, Eddie Royal. Yeah. Man, it was that good to see Eddie Royal finally not only getting the touchdown on a reception, but how about that punt return?
Well, everything that we addressed last week, the things that were most frustrating, just an overall kind of lack of talent being one thing, and then the play calling, to some extent, were both addressed today. You got a ton of help from MaGahee in the backfield, and when he's able to bounce that ball to the edges like he did on a couple of those runs today, that makes Tebow so much more effective, and the play calling was just so much better. You and I were just looking at the second half again, and those drives, you pointed it out. Any of the drives in the second half where they started with MaGahee up the middle didn't seem to go anywhere. But when you got Tebow to the edge, or when you ran MaGahee to the edge, or throwing the ball on first down, that's where they were able to move the ball and effectively work against that Raider defense.
Yeah, I mean, it's been frustrating. Obviously, we've voiced our frustrations on Mike McCoy almost all season long. But, I was sitting there at halftime thinking, what a shame. All these people really want to see, I want to see, is Tim Tebow NFL quality. And it was hard to do with the play calling that was happening. And then yet, this kid, no matter how many times you want to count him out, he's got the bloody lip. He's just beat up, hit, hurried 5-7 times. He's just beat up. And then what, set it off for me is all those fans started chanting, Tebow sucks at the top of their lungs. He's in a bad place. They're not playing well. He's getting beat up, and it's like a Rocky movie. You want to come out fighting, and that's what the Broncos did, and kind of rallied behind their quarterback.
It's exactly what they did, and even as we saw in the Miami game, they continue to play hard for the guy, which more than anything is enough reason to keep Orton where he is currently and give a little bit longer leash to Tebow. But they finally, I think for the first time today, you saw McCoy start to put him in situations where we know that Tebow was successful. A couple of long runs on that zone option read, getting him out to the edges. Did he miss some open guys? Yeah, absolutely he did. Do I think you can win a Super Bowl completing less than 50% of your passes? No, I don't. And we're still not talking about beating some of the elites in the NFL, right? But Oakland was the team on the schedule, and you found a way to score more points than them.
And Tebow rushed for over 100 yards. He had like over an 8-yard per average carry. He was fired up. He did have some very precision-type passes. He had some of those floaters, and this is why there's always confusion. I mean, he has some passes that are 7-10 yards over the guy's head, and they're just not like NFL passes. You're like, how, it's not like other misses. It's like floaters and weird stuff, but yet the kid just keeps scrapping back. And how great is it to have Willis McGahee back with this Denver team? Does that make a difference?
Well, I mean that brings back the days of all the downhill rushers from Terrell Davis on. You had that string of Olandis Gary and all those different running backs in that zone blocking scheme. And watching him today, it's obvious you've got to have that threat in the backfield for Tebow to be successful. Otherwise, guys are, you're going to rush 5-6 guys. And there were a couple of times we saw when we were looking at the second half again where Raiders were rushing 7-8 guys. And if Tebow has the poise, to complete some of those short dump-off passes and get rid of the ball, if McCoy will put him in that position, Who knows?
Yeah, you got to keep them guessing, and good things happen when you catch them off guard. There's so many plays there where they show the Raider coach just pissed on the sideline. And how about that undisciplined? I mean, you're a disciplined guy, right? You coach various different sports here. Maybe not at the level, but I'd take you over McCoy any day. But how does that happen, and how do you correct that problem?
Well, I was surprised in a couple of times during the game. Both Gumble and Deerdorf talked about how Hugh Jackson had addressed the undisciplined and the penalties, and apparently he didn't address it very well. I guess it's one thing to know that you take a lot of penalties, but you can't take over 150 yards worth of penalties in an NFL game. That's like adding another 100-yard rusher, a 100-yard receiver. It's great for a lifelong Bronco fan, like I think most of us probably are. It's the same Raiders that we saw 10 years ago, 20 years ago. It's Lester Hayes and Mike Haynes and Matuzak and Lyle Alzado and Ted Hendricks and all those guys that were taking the cheap shots 20 years ago. They just have different names on their back now.
Yeah, I'm just wondering if they have, those, a lot of teams have something you touch on the way out. Maybe they got a big saying there that says we don't care about penalties, and they touch it on the way out.
Maybe it's just
ridiculous.
A big flag. Maybe it's just a big yellow flag, hanky that hangs down when they come walking out of the locker room, and they rub it for good luck. It's ridiculous to watch that team.
Now, when was the last time you've seen a Denver Bronco break away and stay ahead of? So it's been I don't even know how many years. When MaGahee got that long touchdown, I'm thinking that, he's not going to do it. Even right there at the end, the guy dives, and I'm like, he's going to get tackled at the one, and we're going to do 3 runs up the middle and be stopped.
Kick a field goal.
I hate to think that way, but kick a field goal, then take it off, and then try again. Who knows
miss
what
that,
we're going to do.
right.
But no, it was outstanding. Now, Mr. Consistency, tell me about Eric Decker. I mean, once again, another touchdown. What do you think of Eric Decker? Is he the real deal?
Well, no doubt right now he's the best player on this team. Offense, defensively, however you want to look at it, there's no question he's the best player on this football team. He was a great pickup out of the University of Minnesota, and if you watch as much Saturday morning, the early slot of college football as I like to, and you see some crappy Big Ten games, Decker was a good player. He was a great receiver in college on a very bad Minnesota team. But there's no question. Is he what you want out of your number one guy? Maybe not. Maybe not the stretch the defense speed. He's not Mike Wallace or someone that's gonna keep those safeties 20 yards off the line of scrimmage. But if Demaryius Thomas or one of those speed guys can develop into something, and you can have Decker working underneath, there's no question he's the MVP of this team so far.
I agree. You go out there and you get yourself a big burner to go, to stretch those guys out. Thomas is fast. Slowly, finally, we saw him get open. First time this season I've seen Demaryius Thomas get open, a nice 20-yard catch there. But I really see ideally as Eric Decker is that Wes Welker type player. And
when Welker, as good as Welker is now, he's never been or will never be as good as when he had Randy Moss stretching that defense, right? The years that Welker was the best receiver in the NFL are those years that he had Randy Moss stretching that defense out. That's exactly what Denver needs.
Yeah, I'm excited about a lot of things today. How about Champ Bailey? Champ Bailey comes back. We've reported that the Broncos have been near the bottom in interceptions, and finally Champ Bailey. And I don't know why these guys. You're looking at your playbook and you call the number to go against Champ Bailey. I mean, yes, they did get Champ. He's going to give up a play every once in a while, but they go at him 2 interceptions for Champ Bailey, and the Hall of Famer. What are they thinking?
It's like running at Ray Lewis. You're going to block him 1 or 2 times. You may break a run to that side of the defense, but at the end of the day, Ray Lewis is going to win that battle. Same thing with Champ. We've kind of talked about his demise, and same with Brian Dawkins. But you keep going at them; those guys are still professionals. They still get paid, and they're still going to make plays. They did a great job today. The linebacker play was maybe not exactly what we wanted out of it. They were able to get some pressure on Carson Palmer. The back end of the defense was better than it has been in the previous weeks.
And I'm not sure if the Broncos changed things up on defense that didn't put those linebackers in that position, but you usually see Wesley Woodyard, you see Williams, TJ Williams being the leading tacklers for the Broncos, and they were somewhere in the middle of the pile. Joe Mays with 1 tackle. Now, I thought it was the most complete game I've seen all year from Von Miller. He got only a half a sack, but actually, he was putting pressure on. He got 1 15-yard penalty. He had like 4 tackles. So I thought it was the most complete game from start to finish from Von Miller. I think they'll be very pleased with how he's progressing, and just love that guy, love his character, love what he brings to this ball club. And, And Darcel, a lot of us wanted to go for Marcel Darius.
Yeah.
He's making an impact in Buffalo, but you don't hear the waves like you do about Von Miller.
And if you look across the board, you and I were talking earlier today about Andy Dalton. This is shaping up as one of those draft classes, not just with Denver, but across the league. When you throw in Cam Newton and Von Miller and Darius, and then you start looking at some of the other quarterbacks taken later. Blaine Gabbert struggling a little bit, but pulled off a big Monday night win last week, and what Dalton's doing in the second round. A.J. Green is another one of those guys. Julio Jones, 140 yards receiving today. There's some good football players, and if you're in our position, that makes you pretty excited about what's coming next year. If you watched a lot of football yesterday, if you watched any of that Alabama LSU game, out of the 22 starters, there's 15 NFL players. The 22 defensive starters on each side, there's got to be 15 or 16 NFL players. And the chance of this Denver defense getting better next year, looking forward to it.
Very exciting. By the way, you mentioned Jones just a little bit ago. Danny, Bronco Danny here, who can't join us today, so he's going to catch you on a Wednesday night show this week. We'll hear from Danny, but he put Jones on the bench, who had 140 yards and a couple touchdowns. So he's actually, Dan's in mourning right now, but could not bring himself to come to the show. But no, he's actually excited. When I visioned Danny watching the game today, it reminded me of Dennis Hopper in Hoosiers when he's throwing the toilet paper around. I mean, I'm sure it was mayhem for Danny and his crew out there watching the game. So check in with Danny on Wednesday. One thing we like to do is to give away prizes every week. So here's our challenge of the week. You got to go to the soapbox. You guys should be familiar with this. www.broncoplanet.com and write down the Raider you hate the most, because this is Raider Hater Week. Who you hate the most and why?
Can it be Phillip Rivers?
No, we're going to save him for later. Yeah, we always hate him. Right. So we got a Raider hater. If I can get it to, here we go. To fall out here. There we go. I got a shirt to give away this week. And in addition, we talk about MaGahee having a big game, but some of those guards, I have to tell you, J.D. Walton, too, at center, had an outstanding game, was the key to that big, long run. So in addition to the shirt that I just dropped, is we actually have a J.D. Walton autographed football that we're going to give away at the same time as this. So we got 2 opportunities to win this week. And, who's giving you these Bronco Planet, prizes every week? Bronco Planet. So that's, I guess, summing it up there, Chris. Who were your favorites of the game, and who do you think has the most opportunity to get better?
Really the key, I thought, to the game, not a perfect game by any means, but the offensive line allowed them to do some things that they never could do against Detroit. They didn't establish any sort of running game, and a lot of that obviously is having MaGahee back. But that offensive line, it's going to be a progression. Those aren't a bunch of all-pros across the front, but much, much better today. It allowed them to do some things offensively. Tebow did get hit a lot. There's no doubt about that. Some of that he kind of brings on himself, the way he plays. But I was really happy with the offensive line today.
I was happy with, for the most part. I have to say that I've been extremely disappointed. Once again, Ryan Clady having trouble not only stopping some people to get through, but had 3 penalties for holding. He leads the NFL in holding, which is just not Ryan Clady-like. And I would have expected that last year as he kind of came back and recovered from that injury. But very disappointed in his play. But I thought that J.D. Walton, Zane Beadles, our young guys are starting to come of age here in the NFL and doing a great job.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of pressure on that group, those 5 guys, because playing in front of Tebow has got to be 180 degrees from playing in front of Orton, where where that guy is. When it's Orton, within about 6 inches where he's going to be. And now you go the total opposite. That's a big challenge for those guys. And I think today, given what we saw last week in Detroit, or against Detroit, I think today was a much better performance from those guys.
Yeah, I guess in conclusion, what I'd like to add is there were actually too many Broncos to name. I'll try and name a few that just played really, really well today. We started with J.D. Walton, I think, did an outstanding job. Eddie Royal, man, with a great, important catch down the middle. We needed somebody. With the loss of Brandon Lloyd, sure, we need a receiver to step up and help take the pressure off Eric Decker. And I was hoping it's going to be Thomas Arroyo. Big day, gets the punt return as well. So welcome back, Eddie Royal. MaGahee, obviously, a big game, and Champ Bailey. I mean, and Von Miller. It just goes on and on and on. So linebackers need a little room to improve this week, and who knows? The good news is next week you got the Chargers and the Chiefs playing, so that's a loss for Chargers and Raiders. Right. We got the Broncos and Chiefs. So some movement could happen in the AFC West this coming week, and we could be in this thing. which is crazy.
That's wow.
Maybe it's that good looking hat that's bringing good luck to the Broncos. Probably not. So anyway, so tune in. Danny's coming out Wednesday. You know where to follow us. We're on Facebook. You can catch us on Twitter and our YouTube channel. So we appreciate you guys following us. Hey, great win. In your face, Raiders. In your face all day long. And, hey, what a great win for the Denver Broncos. And what, oh, and I didn't even mention this guy. Tim Tebow, gritty, John Wayne-ish type play. Not always pretty, but, you know, when bloody lip, crowd in his face, Tim Tebow. And who gets those kind of rushing yards? You know, Cam Newton perhaps, but that roll them over, let me plow you right over. Sure. Love it. Love every minute of it. I'm going to sleep good tonight. Catch you next week right here on Bronco Planet.